it is not over for Diddy yet as far as the charges. The investigation, as the U.S. Attorney Damian Williams said this week, is ongoing. And it appears the grand jury is getting ready to hear testimony from some new people. We broke a story today about at least 2 sex workers that we know of who have been subpoenaed and will be going to, at the very least, meet with the prosecutors and potentially sit before the grand jury.
So, they said there may be other defendants in this case, in addition to more charges to Diddy.
Right. So what does this mean for Diddy going forward? You may have, when that 14-page indictment came out, maybe he and his attorneys thought, all right, now we know that's what we're up against. There could be more. Joining us now to talk about how this case will unfold for the next few months, a former Manhattan prosecutor, Jeremy Saland, who is now a defense attorney, and he's joining us to talk about the case. Jeremy, welcome to TMZ Live.
Hey, Jeremy.
How are you?
We're good. So I have a theory, and I want to test it on you. Everybody thinks the Cassie video is going to be the centerpiece of the prosecution's case. I disagree. I've been thinking about it. I think the centerpiece is going to be the video Diddy shot at the freak-off parties. And I think that those videos are going to be used by prosecutors to give people who are at those parties an option. Either become a co-defendant or a witness. Your choice. That's my opinion. What do you think?
I think you may have earned your deputy badge. I don't want to overstate for the Southern District, but I think that's a very fair statement. Let's think about it. You could have committed a terrible assault against somebody, which is relevant here because the theory in part is that you're using that fear and that terror and that violence to make people compliant in whatever scheme you're doing here, this sex human trafficking. But to your point, you also have all these other individuals who are present. Maybe they're accomplices, maybe they're not. Maybe they're victims too. And this also paints the interior, the actual, the trafficking itself, if you will, and the sex crimes, if you will, in the moment. So I think that's a very valid point that you're bringing up in terms of an approach and as far as evidence goes.
So, Jeremy, the sex workers that they, I'm sure, have already spoken to, that prosecutors have spoken to, and we know at least 2 more that they'll be speaking to, are they coming in? I would think that the sex workers are only viewed as victims, right? Because they were paid to come across state lines for, according to the indictment, for purposes of prostitution. So they're coming in just as victims. Are they looking to them for information about who they've seen involved in these parties?
So they're subpoenaed, as I understand it, and when you're subpoenaed, first of all, to the grand jury, you're not actually subpoenaed to meet with the prosecutor. They don't have that authority or ability to do so. But to your point again, I think that's a fair statement. They're likely coming in as a potential witness. Is there a new charge to supersede the indictment? We don't know. If they were potentially targets or subjects of this investigation, if they were coming in, they likely would do it pursuant to what is called a queen for a day. That's what we call it, where you go down with your attorney and what you say in that moment, for the most part, can't be used against you. But I tend to think as a sex worker, someone who's a victim, you're not victimizing them again to prosecute them from coming forward and to be subject to whatever this alleged abuse has been.
So you're a criminal defense lawyer. And I've been thinking about how they defend Diddy in court. So I'm going to try this one out on you. If I were his defense lawyer, I would probably say to the judge, look, if you allow the jury to see the Cassie video or the freak-off videos, they are so prejudicial that there is no way the jury can give him a fair trial. So this is a case where, yeah, it's relevant, but so prejudicial that, Your Honor, you got to keep it out for the sake of giving him a fair trial. I'm not saying that dog's going to hunt. I'm saying that's the best I could think the defense would argue. What do you think?
I think that falls flat, and I hear what you're trying to say, and fresh in people's mind is Harvey Weinstein, right? All this propensity argument came in. First of all, as a matter of sort of fact or the matter of reality, all evidence is prejudicial when it's
Right.
used against you. That's the nature of it.
Right.
But this evidence is not some uncharged crime of someone else alleging that you've done something wrong. This evidence is far different. This is the actual crime itself. It's kind of like the video of the shooter taking the shot. Yeah, that's prejudicial, but that's the crime. It is what it is, brother. You're caught. So,
Well, but with Cassie, the statute of limitations on the actual beating has run.
And also, it wasn't a federal crime.
Yes and no. If you looked at the indictment, and I don't recall when that was precisely, but they're charging allegations from 2009-ish going forward. Well, how do you get that in? How do you bring that in as part of the testimony and evidence? Well, you bring that in because you're arguing against this continuing course of conduct, this obstruction, this behavior, this racketeering. And the last moment, as it said in the indictment, was around the filing of the indictment for that racketeering charge. And the human trafficking was a little earlier. So that's why it's coming in. So it's on an island, it would be outside of the statute of limitations. But my assumption is that if that comes in, that's part of the entire scheme. And the last overt act was leading right up to the filing of the indictment. So it's all coming in as part of that process. It's not like Gotti, who challenged it, said it was outside the scope. I think that would fall flat, if that makes sense.
Yep. Okay. We so appreciate you.
Thank you so much,
joining
Jeremy.
us. Interesting.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Had you heard that Queen for a Day phrase before?
I had not.
Interesting.
I used to watch the show though as a little kid.